Hello, my sacral beauties. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast, where we focus on burnout recovery through the power of sacred pleasure. So welcome. Today, we are starting off our burnout archetypes, and we're going to talk about the Overplanner. Now, if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality framework, this would be an ISTJ. Now, if that's the first time you're hearing about that, or if it sounds a little foreign or like another language to you, then listen to my previous episode that talked more about understanding how your personality could be creating your burnout, and it really explains the Myers-Briggs personality framework a little bit more. We're all so complex as people, so I don't think we can just completely box ourselves into one framework, but I do think that this can help us to get a little bit closer to understanding ourselves and shifting our burnout patterns. So I'm excited. We're going to talk about your sacred strengths as an ISTJ. We're going to dive into your nervous system patterns, core beliefs, possible root causes, some core fears. We're also going to break down your nervous system connection and how your body may react to stress or burnout, some common burnout habits and traps, and we'll also share a little mini ritual that you can do to help you that's specific to your personality type. The ISTJ. So you're likely to be more introverted when you draw in energy, sensing when you process information, thinking with making decisions, and judging with how you relate to structure and flexibility. So this makes you reliable, grounded, and organized, and your energy makes life feel safe and steady. You thrive on structure and follow through. These are qualities that the world deeply needs, especially now. So take a deep breath and honor that. Having that structure is truly sacred. So when does burnout creep in for you? Sometimes your structure can end up becoming your cage. So here are some signs that you might notice that your personality could be leaning into burnout. You may notice irritation or anxiety when your plans change, overscheduling every single moment, and feeling guilty if you quote-unquote waste time resting. Some clues that your body will let you know that it's reaching burnout is that you may carry a tight jaw, headaches, have poor sleep, or experience more fatigue. Of course, this looks different for everyone, so take what resonates. Now, let's dive into how your nervous system may perceive stress through your personality type. So when it comes to our survival coping mechanisms, we either fight, flight or flee, freeze, or fawn. When it comes to your nervous system, you may tend to lean into the fight mode, but this is masked as control. So overplanning starts to feel like safety to you. So even though you may not be very combative or starting arguments or literally fighting with people, the energy of fighting is in this feeling of trying to control everything. You're still taking action. You're trying to combat the stress and the burnout with overplanning. Some core beliefs or things you may find yourself saying in your mind is, if I don't plan, then everything falls apart. And being extra prepared keeps me safe. Now let's talk a little bit more about some possible root causes, because I do believe that our childhood, the way we grew up, the things that surround us, shapes our personalities. You may have experienced some childhood chaos, which led you into needing a feeling of control, which was a way that you survived. So if you grew up in a household where everything was super chaotic, there was no order, there was no structure, everything was always all over the place, this could drive your nervous system into overdrive. Just being in something that feels very chaotic feels like you are in a war zone. That's how your body and your mind and your nervous system can perceive it, especially when you've grown up in it. So having that feeling of control helps you to get through that experience. You may have also experienced punishment for making mistakes. So your mindset may have perceived being perfect will bring you more love. And of course, we could always carry generational beliefs, what your parents taught you, what your grandparents taught your parents, thereon and thereforth. So something that could have been taught to you is hard work equals worth. You're not going to make or receive anything unless you work really hard. Does any of this resonate? If so, then definitely give me a like or a comment down below so I know that this is resonating with you. A core fear that you could be carrying is that if you lose control, this will trigger shame or failure. So if you feel that you are creating chaos in your life, you're creating the life that you worked so hard to not have, this can make you feel like a failure or feel ashamed, like you've let yourself down in some way or let others down in some way. Now, I always think to myself, how do we get here, right? Because it just doesn't pop up out of nowhere. So a burnout trap can start off by believing that if you plan more, you'll have more control. But your body needs rest, not another checklist. So a prime example could be that you spent 3 hours color coding your planner for the next month, but now you're too exhausted to enjoy the rest of the day. Planning isn't the enemy, but being too rigid strangles pleasure, and safety exists when we soften. So just keep that in mind, that it's not that planning is the problem. Of course, we need structure in order to have flow, but when we've gone too far off into being so rigid and so structured and planning everything that we don't give ourselves space or time or energy to allow ourselves to rest and to breathe and to allow life to happen, we can run into overplanning. Earlier, we talked about having a tight jaw and headaches and poor sleep and fatigue. But to dive in a little bit deeper, if you've ever experienced TMJ, which means like your jaw just kind of locks up or it gets really tight, you might be grinding your teeth while you're sleeping, or you may get a lot of tension headaches. You're just really holding a lot of the stress in your mind and in your head, and it's being reflected within your mouth. Possibly you could be tightening your mouth so much from holding back the things that you need to say, standing up for yourself, setting those boundaries, voicing how you feel by tightening up your jaw and focusing so much on planning. When we live in our minds so much, this also can create restless sleep and also affect the way that our brain and gut communicate. So if you notice that you run into some digestive or gut issues more frequently when you're stressed, this is a sign that your body is waving that little red flag to let you know, I need a little attention right now. Can we please rest? When it comes to your hormones, cortisol is going to go into overdrive. And when cortisol is super high, this can create irregular cycles, low libido, and more severe PMS. When it comes to your sacral energy, creativity can feel a little dull or muted because anything that feels spontaneous to you can feel like a threat. Okay, so now that we covered that, let's talk more about some burnout habits. You may be overcommitting yourself to detailed plans even when you feel exhausted. If you put it on your schedule, if you put it on the calendar, it must happen, right? We're not even allowing ourselves to cancel. You could also be refusing help because you may have repeated to yourself, no one will do it right. You ever heard that quote? If you want it done right, do it yourself, right? You live by that. You may end up canceling fun or intimacy because there's just no time. And another burnout habit is that you're using planning as a coping tool for anxiety instead of feeling and addressing your emotions or whatever you're feeling on a deeper level when it comes to the thing that is burning you out. So I want to share with you a little micro ritual that you could do in order to give yourself a little relief if you're experiencing burnout or recognize that you're over planning. Give yourself the permission pause. Before opening your planner, place your hand on your heart and lower belly. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, what would feel nourishing, not just necessary? See what comes up for you. Maybe it's something super simple. It could be a meal, it could be time with a loved one, it could just be time with yourself. Whatever would feel nourishing to your soul is exactly what you need in order to bring more balance towards yourself and reconnect you with your body. And another pleasure ritual you can do is to schedule one unstructured hour for this week. Maybe it's a nice bath with candles, maybe it's a nice slow dance, maybe it's a sensual stretch. Whatever aligns with you or feels good to your nervous system, do that this week. So I want to remind you that nothing is wrong with craving structure, but when structure starts to become a trap or your prison, your soul cannot breathe. So start small. Let your body learn safety in softness. Let your body know that it's okay, that we're still safe even when we don't have a plan. Now, if you notice that you may be a little bit more extroverted than introverted, but you're still an introvert, that happens to me too. So in the next episode, we'll cover ESTJ, which is considered to be the workaholic. So you may be able to find more information in that one as well that may also resonate with you. So make sure that you're subscribed or you follow this podcast so that way you get notified when that episode is released. And for one-on-one deep support, you can also click the link down below where we'll explore more about what stage you're in of burnout and along with customized guidance for your burnout archetype. Because you deserve more than plans. You deserve pleasure. Thank yourself so much for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to the She Sacral podcast.